Hi, I'm Justin Boyd.
And I'm 2-0.
And hold on. And I'm the newest starting quarterback for the Carolina Panthers, Tristan Jones.
And we are the Watchers in the Basement. Welcome to the Watchers in the Basement, and welcome to Watchers Football Weekly, a podcast within a podcast, and a podcast that's all about the pigskin. This week, we are here to discuss week 2 of the NFL season. Let's get right to it. There are 9 teams that are still undefeated in the NFL. Those teams are the Bills, Saints, the Chargers, Seahawks, the Vikings, Bucks, Chiefs, Steelers, and Texans. Frank, of those 9 teams, which one's the most surprising to you?
Steelers. I did not think they would be 2-0 with they had so much like quarterback, not controversy, but ambiguity with the Russ injury and come out of camp, and Justin Fields coming there and expected to be the backup. I mean, now don't get me wrong, it's been a very pedestrian offense these last 2 weeks, but I mean they're 2-0. I mean, and while they're 2-0, simultaneously, the two other teams that we thought that would be leaders in the division, at least right now, the Bengals and the Ravens are both 0-2. So, old school football, man. Great defense, running the ball just enough to complete short passes, and Fields has no turnovers. He's played clean football, very pedestrian football, but clean football nonetheless. So I'll say Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I'm gonna say Pittsburgh would be my number one choice, but off that, I would say Minnesota. Obviously beating the Giants is beating the Giants. Like, they are a G League team at this point. They're a CFL team, basically. But finishing that second half against the Niners with no Justin Jefferson, TJ Hawkinson went out, Sam Darnold closed that game out. So I didn't see that happening. Sam Darnold has looked good. He's looked good so far. It'd be interesting to see how long that glass slipper lasts. But for right now, he's balling with what he has. So I'm gonna go with Minnesota.
Yeah, and in that Minnesota game, you had Jefferson with a 97-yard touchdown. Looked like he was playing Tecmo Bowl or something. The way he was like zigzagging up the field to score. That's a big play. So I both y'all picked very surprising ones, but for me, the biggest surprise is the Saints. In our prediction show a few weeks ago, I mean, I joked that they should be relegated along with Carolina. I mean, I didn't think they were that bad, but I thought this was a team that was primed for a new coach at some point, definitely a new quarterback, and they went into Dallas and just smoked the Cowboys. I mean, they knocked them out in the first half. I don't know, the first quarter maybe. Alvin Kamara had 4 touchdowns. Derek Carr, he was 11 of 16 for 200 something yards, a couple touchdowns. He had a rushing touchdown. Is Derek Carr the MVP right now? If we stop the season after 2 weeks, I mean, that's a legitimate question. Like, they're playing really well. Their defense is awesome. And they beat Carolina in week 1. Everybody's going to beat Carolina. But to do that to the Cowboys, who, the Cowboys have been really good in the regular season over the last, 4 or 5 years. And they'd won 16 straight in the regular season, or at least at home, I believe. And they got smashed in that game.
Yeah, like, they just dominated in every front. If Derek Carr is not the week 2 MVP, then it's Alvin Kamara, who just, turned back. It looked like 2019 Alvin Kamara. Like, he's outrunning guys, he's running through guys, breaking tackles, getting yacked. He's killing them from the line of scrimmage. Like, he was. I still think he was the most dominant player on that field. Yeah. With Derek Carr being like a very close second, man. Like, I got to give credit. We have to give credit to Clint Kubiak. I never thought in my entire life that an offense run by somebody with the last name Kubiak would be like dynamic. And I mean, they're using like motion very well.
Yeah.
We talked about it. Me and Frank talked about it on Sunday. Like, just kind of getting out of that vanilla, basic play action, bootleg, whatever. Like, they're really utilizing motion like super well to like throw off defenses. And Derek Carr is airing it out in a way that we haven't seen, I don't know, ever in his career. Airing it out with confidence. So yeah, man, they look good. I did not think that. I thought the defense could be good because the defense has been solid, really over the last few years. It's just offensively they've been putrid, and man, if the offense can just kind of remain steady, I don't expect it to be this explosive. But if it can just remain steady and it's good, and consistently move the ball down the field, hey man, the Saints have a chance to take that division and like really make some noise in the NFC.
Yeah. I mean, everything Tristan said. I mean, Clint Kubiak was the quarterback at in Houston when I was an intern at KPRC in 07. So I feel like I grew up. I grew up like watching him grow up.
Yeah, you're an intern. Okay, never mind.
Yeah, when I was an intern in 07. Yeah, he was
okay.
a quarterback when his dad was the coach of the Texans. So see where he's at now, man. It's kind of like it's kind of cool. It's really really cool. But no, I mean everything Tristan said, man. That the offense and is dynamic. The cutting edge. Derek Carr is playing mistake-free football. He's not turning the ball over. Heat has been a find for those guys, man. But with him and Kamara in that backfield, they have two dynamic backs who can catch the ball in the backfield. Like when either are in the game, you don't know if they're gonna run, pass, screen, split them out wide in the slot. They have two dynamic backs, and I think that combination along with Chris Olave is gonna be a problem in the NFC South. That division's wide open. I mean, I know a lot of people have had the Falcons coming into it on paper, but I mean, between the Falcons, Tampa, and New Orleans, that division football, those interdivisional matchups are going to be really, really interesting to see this year.
Yeah, there could be two playoff teams from that division. I mean, that's a division in the past few years where you could argue no team deserved to make the playoffs. And it was really a question of would any team in that division be over 500? And I mean, Tampa Bay looks as good as anybody right now. I mean, that win, they beat Detroit in a rematch of their playoff game last year. They went into Detroit and got that win. Pretty impressive stuff. Baker Mayfield also playing really well. Like, maybe Baker Mayfield and Alvin Kamara and Derek Carr are MVP front runners right now. I don't know. It's pretty strange stuff that's happening so far through 2 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, I'd also throw like CJ Stroud in there. I think though like Texans only scored 19 points, I thought CJ made every single play that he needed to make, especially when they got in long third downs. Like CJ, I've yet to see him consistently like make bad decisions. Like I've never seen him make two bad decisions in a row. Like the closest would be like in the playoffs against the Ravens, but I think that's just, hey, you're just going up, you just overmatched against a much better team. Like he just makes the right decisions and he makes the right play. And he also mixes in like a good amount of like spectacular in there. Man, CJ's amazing, man.
And Nico Collins is having a star turn. Like he's having a star turn. I mean, you saw a little bit last year, but I think the Texans give him that big contract, empowering him to be like, hey, you're our guy. Like you're going to lead this passing game. We're gonna empower this Stroud Collins connection, and it's paid dividends so far this year. I didn't know he was that big. He's a huge guy. Like he looks like Andre Johnson running routes out there. He's so huge, and like he looks like a linebacker going against these little DBs, and he's a matchup problem. It's gonna be hard. I don't know how you game plan against the Texans. I mean, they can configure that offense with those pieces all over the place. I mean, when Mixon's healthy, you move Diggs around in the slot. Tank Dell. Tank Dell has been a forgotten part of this offense only because they have so many balls to go around. But Slowick has this choice to pick when it comes to like guys he wants to feature from week to week.
Yeah, and then on the other side of the ball, their defense, in the Sunday night game against the Bears, they sacked Caleb Williams 7 times, picked him off twice. That's a stout unit, regardless of what the offense is doing. And, as Tristan said, the offense didn't do a ton in that game, but, it was an ugly win, but it was a win. And the Texans, they're not really a surprise. We kind of expected them to be, 2-0. At least I expect them to win the first couple games, but still, you got to go do it. There's plenty of teams that we can't say the same for. Look at like conversely, the 0-2 teams. There's 9 of those also. You got the Jaguars, you got the Colts, the Giants, the Titans, the Ravens, the Panthers, the Rams, the Bengals, and the Broncos. Tristan, of those teams, who's your big surprise for being winless?
I mean, the easy answer is Baltimore.
Yeah.
Man, like they have this horrible habit of blowing 10 plus point leads, especially in the fourth quarter. I thought the offense played well. I thought the offense moved the ball down the field. At two separate times, they had a 10-point lead. Like, especially in the second half, like that should be something that you finish, like you consistently finish. If you're that good of a team, and like the Ravens have pretty much smashed everybody in the NFL, except the Chiefs and members of their division. But like the defense is supposed to be that calling card. So I think we talked last week about what is the Ravens' identity. Like can they find their identity? Can they find like a consistent identity? Are they a team that is run through Lamar? Having them kind of find this balance between passing and running. Are they a defense ball control? Run the ball 25 plus times, 30 plus times. I just don't know. I don't know how they consistently attack teams on a game-to-game basis. But I still think that's fine because they're good enough offensively to like weather those. They can't struggle defensively like that. They can't give up quick points, especially in the fourth quarter like that, because as good as I feel about their offense is not explosive enough to make up for it. Yeah. Like their offense is good to, go 2 to 3 possessions without scoring at all. So if the defense can't handle that, then man, I fear they might be in trouble, and we are in for a double must win next Sunday.
Yeah, you mentioned it. The Ravens visit the Cowboys. The Cowboys are coming off that beating from the Saints, and the Ravens, like you said, are 0-2. That'll be a really interesting game to watch on Sunday. Hey, Frank, of the winless teams, which one's like the big surprise to you, big shocker?
Baltimore is definitely one.
Yeah.
I would have to say Jacksonville, man. They've really surprised me about this lackluster start that they're having.
Yeah.
Tristan and I spoke about this. I don't know if you remember this, Tristan, in our group chat last year. I posed a question: how do you view Trevor Lawrence? Like, what is he? Like, how do we look at him? How should we look at him? And I asked a question. This might have been November of last year, right when he got hurt. Do you pay him? And Tristan and I, we both said you have to pay him. Like, you spend no more pick on this guy, second head coach, second OC in as many seasons. The past 2 years, you're paying for what he can be in the development and like him being another assistant for a second and hopefully a third year with the same front office and same coaching staff. He doesn't make enough throws for his talent that his talent suggests. Like when you watch him at Clemson, he looked like a god amongst men. The athleticism, the anticipatory throws that he will make, being able to throw guys open. I'm not seeing any of that, at least not on a consistent basis at the NFL level with him. And I don't understand why. And I get it. This is his second head coach, second OC over the last couple of years. But from a play-to-play basis, he better throw last week in the Miami game to Brian Thomas Jr. in the back of the end zone. Brian Thomas was running a post right down the middle of the field. He wasn't open. He was head to head with the corner, and he outran the corner, and he dropped it in the bucket to the left-hand corner pylon. And it was a beautiful throw. I see that play from Trevor like once every 3 games. It's not enough. He's not consistent enough to make those at this part of his career to make those throws. And in year 4, we expect that from him. They paid you $55 million a year to be that guy, And I'm not gonna say it's a mistake just yet, but these questions need to be answered. Like, what are you? Like, are you just a guy that's gonna tease us? Are you Jeff Georging us? Like, Jeff George was a guy back in the 90s who had all the talent in the world, can make all the throws, athletic, golden arm, accurate. But for some reason, when it came to a game-to-game basis, he struggled putting it all together, and he became a journeyman. They committed 4 years to this guy, and they got to figure out, man, like, what is it? What do you need to push you into that next level? He had 27 yards passing in the quarter or in the second half. Like, that's terrible. That's awful. And they gotta figure that out, man, because you're only 2 in the AFC. It was already a stiff competition. The Texans are already 2 games ahead of you, and y'all haven't played yet. So I'll have to say Jacksonville from the standpoint of Trevor Lawrence, because he's the straw that stirs that drink, and if he's not going well, then the Jags will be in trouble.
Yeah, man. Second all that. For me, when I look at Trevor, it's like it's the drive killing sacks. It's just making poor reads. I mean, the Jags as a whole are a disaster. Like they're finding ways to lose games. You know what I'm saying? Like they don't look well coached. They don't look like the play calling trust Trevor. It's a lot going on with Jacksonville, but we talked about it. You had to pay him. Trevor Lawrence is going to do enough spectacular things that make you feel good about paying him, but he won't do enough of those things for you to feel like super confident about where this is going to go. So this is make or break year for him, and the scrutiny on him is going to be extra tough, especially as we get through like the middle and end of the year. Jags have not won a game since Thanksgiving. Like this is in a poor division. They should be clearly battling the Texans for first place. Like it should be neck and neck, Bengals, Ravens. Like it should be somewhere around like that. But they just don't look ready. They don't look ready to compete. I wonder at what point do the veterans on that team kind of start losing a little bit of confidence in the quarterback, because that's usually where we start with the blame and some type of shift in the direction of the team. But we're just not seeing enough from Trevor Lawrence. He's been bad.
Yeah, he's had a rough time. He really, really has to start the season. And then the fact that it didn't help that the Jaguars on Sunday, they renamed the stadium. It was like something like with Trevor and it was like, what was it? Trevor. I can't remember what it was, but like whatever the name is of their stadium, they worked his name into the stadium. They renamed the stadium for the day, and it just totally bombed. I mean, like you couldn't have picked a worse time to do that. So, yeah. But before I go any further, I want to shout out to everybody in the chat. We appreciate everybody's joining us in the live chat right now. We've got Tracy Villigence, we've got King B Johnson, we've got Geeking Out with Melly Mel. Appreciate everybody joining us. If you have any questions or any comments about week 2 of the NFL season, let us know. We'll try to get to as many as we can. For me, 0-2 teams, I've got a lot to pick from because 4 of my playoff teams are 0-2 right now. And, like Frank mentioned Jacksonville, of course, like Tristan said, the Ravens, the Rams are also 0-2, but the team I want to talk about is the Bengals. I want to talk about the Bengals, not because I'm super surprised, because after the loss week 1 to the Patriots, they had to go into Kansas City. I knew this was going to be a tough game, but once again, the Bengals and Chiefs they have a great, like their contrasting styles just make for a great game, makes for an entertaining game. Of course, I'm joined by 2 huge Chiefs fans. So I want to get y'all's perspective on that game, because it was a week full of really close games. I think that's got to be the game of the week, right? Frank, what'd you think about this game? Give me your thoughts on Chiefs Bengals.
I mean, the people have spoken. That was the highest rated September game since '98. So we're talking about 26 seasons. Yeah, the numbers came out early today. When I saw that spread of like 6, I'm just like, bruh. The last 4 games have been 1 score. I think 3 points. I'm like, it's gonna be a close game. For some reason, man, the Bengals defensive coordinator just knows how to give Pat fits. Like Pat seems to force a little bit against the Bengals. They play a lot of 2-man cover, 2-man deep. They play a little cover 2. I think Pat got a little bit impatient. He wanted to feature Xavier a little bit. He tried Cam Britton, who's a up and coming young great corner. It's always going to be a close game with those two teams, man. It always is. It's no matter how bad or how good a team each team is going on opposite directions. It's just one of those games. And I want to say this: Mr. Trent McDuffie, man, is having he's having, I won't say a star turn. I mean, because he made All Pro last year. He's becoming a mainstay now. Like this is becoming a thing. The first game that Jamar Chase had his rookie year, he had over 200 yards receiving against the Chiefs. I think the last 4 games, he's barely matched 200 yards. Against Trent McDuffie, he had 1 catch for 4 yards over the time that Trent traveled with Jamar Chase. He is becoming one of those corners you have to game plan for. And when I mean game plan for, I mean like not throw to his side and like go to the other side. He's become one of those corners. He's a wonderful talent. The defense, again, like last year, man, they saved us. Like we had 3 turnovers, which we lost the turnover battle 3-1. And we found a way to win that game because of that defense. I mean, they had a key 3rd down stop on a SPAC special on a corner blitz by Shamari O'Connor to even get the ball back at that point to even come back to win the game on a field goal try. But I want to say this, man, about the Bengals. I know they started 0-2, I think 4 of the last 5 years. I'm not worried about them yet because they have the Commanders next week. They have the Giants, and they have I think they have the Ravens, and then they have the Panthers. So they either go 3-3, maybe 4-2. So the way the schedule is shaping up with those guys, they should be okay. Higgins should be back in the next week or two. But yeah, I don't something about them going 0-2, man. I don't know if they're not playing enough in preseason, but that's a sign that Zach needs to get together, the head coach for the Bengals. Like, you can't come out the gates 0-2 this often as a customary thing every season. That's a problem. You played New England at home. Like, you shouldn't lose that game. Like, yeah, city turnovers in that game. They should be at least 1-1 right now. But yeah, man, it's just one of those teams that the Chiefs know that we're going to get their best shot. And them being 2-0, the Chiefs, being the Ravens and being Cincy, that's going to bode well going into December, having those tiebreakers. So, yeah, those teams can play 10 times. I wouldn't be surprised if it was 5-5 or 6-4 on either side.
Yeah, man, I thought it was for the offense, I thought it was a C+ game at best. Scored 3 times essentially. Defense got a score. For the defense, I mean, I thought that was a B+, A- game. The Bengals, they just like Frank said, like they keep their safeties high. They try to take away everything deep. Shout out to Pat and Rashee Rice for getting a 44-yard bomb. That's the highest, the longest touchdown play in 2 years. So I mean, besides that, I thought what's funny was I thought the offense did a solid job of kind of moving the ball for the most part. I thought it was like last year, it was a lot of drive killing penalties. Obviously, the 3 turnovers, both of them were due to Pat being impatient. On the first interception, he had, I think it was P-Ryan in the flat, wide the fuck open. But he just had his sight set on, I think, Kelsey over the middle. And then, of course, the force to Xavier Worthy on the outside at Cam Britt snatched with one arm. Yeah, man, like the Bengals just like they force impatience. Like they force it. You essentially, the way to beat that is kind of what Joe Burrow did, which was kind of take those 5-6 yard slants, extend plays out 6-7 yards at a time. Run the ball, periodically, to pick up first downs or to get, good yardage on first down. And it was just impatience, but like, it also made me more encouraged because I thought the offense looked better against the Ravens. And I thought it took a slight dip. But again, these are 2 of the elite teams in the league. And like they did enough, especially late. They looked poised. They looked like they believed like they were going to win these games. Hell, and on the last drive, they essentially picked up 2 4th downs before the pass interference. Like on one end, like they're doing some of the things that they did last year to kind of get themselves in holes, but like they're also doing it while being up, you know, having a lead, so like it doesn't hurt the same way. So like I think they're doing enough over the course of a game to win these games instead of getting down by a lot and then having to rely on an inefficient offense. So like I think the offense has overall been okay. It's been good. It's been much better than it was the first two games last year. So I'm encouraged for the Chiefs side. On the Bengals side, I think like it was a tale of two games. Like the Bengals against the Chiefs looked nothing like they did against the Patriots. Like they looked sure of what they wanted to do, and they're playing a better defense. So I'm not worried about the Bengals. Like I'm not worried about them starting 0-2. I think they can and will beat Baltimore if they play the way they did this past Sunday. So the Steelers are not running away with the division, right? Like the Browns could look. Deshaun Watson can come all the way back down to earth next Sunday. So there's no reason to worry about the Bengals right now. Ask me in like week 7, and we'll see. And, if Burrow can stay healthy.
This is scary times, man, for the NFC, for the AFC North. Like the Bengals got Carolina, so that's a win, right? They got the Commanders. That can go either way. That Ravens Bengals game on October 6th. Let's assume the Ravens lose. That's a big if they lose to the Cowboys. You're 0-3 going into that game, right? If you lose that game, you're possibly 1-4, and out of the AFC playoff picture. If you're the Ravens, for the Bengals, assume they beat the Carolina, they have the Ravens. I mean, if they lose to the Ravens, they're 1-3. So it's one of those things where you can't lose too many more conference games going into October. We're still in September. So if you're 1-3, 1-4 that first week of October, that could spell trouble, especially if like the Texans and the Chiefs and those teams keep winning. Let's say Pittsburgh goes 3-1 out of the gate. Now you're 3 games behind Pittsburgh, trying to get back in the division picture. So I'm not saying you can miss the playoffs in September, but you can miss the playoffs in September if you go 1-3. So
right, you can't win it in September, but you can definitely make it tough on yourself for the rest of the way. No question about that. The Rams, they're also 0-2, and as I was mentioning, if you look at the scoreboard from this week, all the games were close, and except for the games that were just like stunning results, right? You had, like I said, we talked about earlier how the Saints went into Dallas and just killed the Cowboys, and then you had this game: Cardinals 44, Rams 10. Kyler Murray went off. Marvin Harrison Jr. got his first 2 touchdown catches. And Tristan, what's up with the Rams? Was it just they just run into a buzzsaw named Kyler Murray and Marvin Harrison?
Yeah, essentially. I mean, also the Rams are without any and all offensive weapons.
You kind of need those, yeah.
Yeah, like so that didn't help on the offensive side. I saw Matt Stafford pressing a lot once they got down, essentially 21-3 early on. But that was just a quick ass whooping, honestly. The Cardinals did whatever they want. Kyler Murray did whatever he wanted. The pass rush, even when they tried to put pressure on him, he did a great job escaping the pocket, making plays, efficient plays. Like I think he had a perfect passer rating. I'm pretty sure they sent his jersey to the Hall of Fame. No, I'm not joking.
Yeah,
yeah, they literally did. I think he had first person with like 250 plus yards, a certain percentage, and in a perfect game. So yeah, they sent that shit off to Canton. Yeah, man, and Marvin Harrison was special. He was special. Even if you take away like the 2 touchdown plays, like he just found ways to get open. Like I don't know if he just developed a synergy with Kyler Murray over the course of a week, but whenever Kyler Murray would scramble, 6-7 seconds in a scrambling drill, essentially, Marvin Harrison would find that open gap. It could be deep downfield, it could be 7 to 10 yards downfield. Man, he looks like a veteran already. And they just bludgeoned the Rams, and the Rams couldn't keep up with offensively.
Yeah. Kyler Murray, he is the king of the Sunday afternoon window because all the Cardinals games are in that window. And when he plays well, like there's something to watch because usually that's a tough watch for fans because we have like this week we had 10 games at noon and we had 3 in the afternoon. Now, luckily, one of them, of course, was Bengals Chiefs, which was the marquee matchup of the weekend. But the other 2 games, that on paper they weren't the greatest things to watch. But then when you have Kyler Murray playing like that, it makes for more entertainment on a Sunday. Frank, what do you think about the Rams and the Cardinals matchup?
Man, it's tough, man. If you're the Rams, man, like you should be 1-1. It's just these injuries are just piling up so quickly. Like they're down the number 1, number 2 receiver in as many weeks. Like I don't. And Stafford, he's playing. He's trying to do his best, right? Like he's trying to will this team to at least be competitive, and like he's down to his his 3rd, 4th, and 5th receivers. So it's one of those things where it's just I had the Rams as a playoff team early on in our first show this year, and it's unfortunate. The Cardinals' offense may be fun to watch this year. Like they got pieces. Like I mean, Marvin Harrison, we know he has mass star potential. I have him in 2 leagues, by the way. So I expected this very, very soon. So, but not just Marvin. You got Trey McBride, up and coming tight end. James Conner had 120 yards in that game as well. Dortch, I hate his name. A black guy named Dortch, that's wild to me. I don't know. That's just wild. But he's a solid number 2 receiver. Like they got pieces. I don't know how good their defense is, but with them being 1-1 and Kyle looks healthy. Like he's running around. His lateral quickness is back. He's making off script throws. They're on my Sunday ticket, like top 8 teams to watch this year, just from offensive purposes. But yeah, the Rams are done. I mean, Puku's out for I think 6 weeks, and Cup's now on IR. It's unfortunate. I mean, especially for a guy like Stafford, who's in the twilight of his career, you hate to see it. But God, with way more forward behind him than it is ahead of him, to not have the pieces alongside with him to like compete in this division. So yeah.
Yeah, and the least surprising result from this weekend was Carolina losing to the Chargers. The Chargers just ran all over them. J.K. Dobbins had a big game. That wasn't a surprise. However, on Tuesday, or actually yesterday on Monday, the Panthers made a move that I was surprised by. They benched Bryce Young in only his 18th start in his career. Now, mind you, he was the number 1 overall pick they traded up for in 2023. They gave up 4 draft picks and DJ Moore to the Bears to move up, and they're already benching him. This is a team with a first-year coach. It's totally a developmental team. So my question, I go to Tristan first. Do you think this is the end of Bryce Young in Carolina? Do you think this is a good move? I mean, to me, it just doesn't make a lot of sense because you're not a team that's going to win anyway.
I think a lot of things that may conflict with each other. I think it's the right move.
Okay.
I don't think it automatically spells the end of Bryce Young in Carolina. If you're Carolina, you can't. You just for like PR purposes, you can't get rid of your number 1 overall draft pick quarterback. Not even 2 years into his regime. You shouldn't have started him in the first place. Like this is why I think this is a good move. It's just late, like 18 months too late. I think he needs time to sit and process and just not get more overwhelmed than he already is, because he's on the verge of like Derek Carr territory. When I watched, I had Carolina on the multi-view. They were like the bottom left or top right, top left, which means they're not getting like my prime attention.
Yeah.
But I am trying to make sure that I see enough of Bryce Young on offense, of Carolina on offense, just so I can kind of like diagnose, like, is he as bad as I remember from last year? Is he as bad as people saying he was in week 1? I didn't watch a ton of the Carolina in week 1. He's about as bad as everybody's saying. He's seeing ghosts. He is taking off from the pocket too early. He is trying to make up for the fact that they're not moving the ball, but like forcing throws and like, buddy, you're not good at like the on script, simple, 1-2 read, get it out of your hands shit. Like you can't scramble all the way out to your left and then while trying to evade this pass rush that's on your ass from the second you're snapping the ball, try to like direct people like to where to go all the way 20 yards downfield. We're not at that level yet. We are not there. You're trying to like do donuts in the parking lot and you don't know how to parallel park, brother. Like one thing at a time. With that said, like there were like passes here and there where I'm like, oh, okay, like, hey, let's build on that. Let's build on like, hey, you look this way, there was nothing there. You made a quick read, got it out 5 yards. Now it's 3rd and 6 instead of 3rd and 10 or whatever.
Yeah.
He's not I don't think Bryce Young is unsalvageable, but there's some things that he has to get stronger. Period. They have to get some type of talent on the offensive line. He has to get better at picking up blitzes, seeing the blitz before it happens, because they're on his ass. And just handle like it's the very basic shit. Like, hey, there's 2 guys blitzing you from the left side. Like, hey, let's slide the protection over. Let's keep it back in. Let's get the ball out of our hands really quickly. It's like the things that I saw Caleb Williams doing in the first half against the Texans. Like Bryce Young needs to start doing that. First half, you can tell like there was a concerted effort for Caleb Williams to get the fucking ball out of his hands very quickly. See it, boom, get it out, bam. Yeah. Bryce Young hasn't even gotten there yet because he has not, been able to like, not even master, but like just kind of be solid at recognizing the blitz and then making an adjustment before you go through with that play. But I think it's the right move. I think he needs to sit. I hope that by my mid-season, he should be back in the starting lineup. He needs reps. Like, right move or not, he needs reps. And maybe you let him finish out the season. By next year, like a decision has to be made. Either he is good enough to move forward with, or that will be the end of his reign in Carolina. But right now, it's too early.
Yeah. Frank, what do you make of the Bryce Young situation?
I just think it's very unserious of franchises to. It's almost negligence, right? To like put a kid out there amongst shit. Like you don't have a good O-line. This is your second head coach, second OC in as many seasons. The owner's a kook. Like they have no stability. Why would you put that kid out there? Like he shouldn't have played last year.
That's the answer. Right there.
Yeah, like he shouldn't have played last year. He should have been on the bench learning, like watching Andy Dalton or whoever the backup was last year, watching on the clipboard, like watching stuff from the sidelines. I'm not a big believer. It's one thing if you have an O-line put in place and weapons and a solid foundation of a hierarchy of coach, OC, the Trinity, right? They don't have that. And like, I don't know why you think you can put all of this shit on a 21-year-old kid and say, hey, fix this. And I've been reading a lot of things where like a lot of fans are like from Carolina and like just people in general, like, oh, well, CJ did it. They had structure last year. They had a head coach who came from a winning situation, who was a architect of a great defense for the last few years. They had a left tackle in Larry Tunsil. They had solid weapons with Nico Collins and Damian Pierce who had a good year last year, and Dalton Schultz who they brought in. They had structure put it in place. Carolina has no structure. What the fuck is the Danny Canales? I don't know who he is. I don't know where he came from. And like, and it's just the lack of consistency coming out of like the press room. Just Sunday, Danny Canales is like, oh, this is our quarterback. We're moving forward with him. And then Monday he's benched. Like it's too much. It's too much chaotic stuff going on in that locker room for that kid to endure. And it's like, if you're not going to have those places put in place, a solid O-line, serviceable weapons, a foundation for him to play off of, sit his ass down, use the next 2 drafts to retool, restock, and put viable talent around this kid to be successful. And I kind of see it as you move a kid of 4 grades, damn where he's not ready to take the standardized test for the seventh, eighth, ninth grade. But you're like, oh well, he was good in the 4th grade, so he should be great in the 8th grade. No, that's not how it works. You got to develop these kids nice and slow. And I think a lot of these franchises, a lot of these bad franchises, they try to mirror these good franchises, but not having the pieces to do the mirroring for it. So yeah, man, it's a sad thing in Carolina, man, and I hope. And I don't think it's gonna get any better. I mean, from what I've read, Tepper, the owner, is a kook. He's a shithead. Like I don't know how you thrive in that environment with him, holding the helm.
Now here comes the bad news. I don't even think with the right structure, Bryce Young is going to be a really good to great quarterback. He's just too small,
he's
bro.
So little, yeah.
He's too small.
Yeah.
They show one angle of him like behind like an offensive line at the line of scrimmage, and like I could not see from like behind him how he could see over the line. Like I just couldn't see it. He has to move out, but he's not accurate enough. Like this, I don't see a world where he lives up to like being your number 1 overall pick, or if he's just really like a first round pick. And I hate that he was so good at Alabama, but like there was so much of a structure in place around his flaws that you really didn't. You noticed the flaws, but then like he overperformed his flaws. And the NFL is just too good, and I don't see, like, he's not super quick like Kyler Murray, but he's not as stout as Kyler Murray or Russell Wilson is. He doesn't have as big an arm. Like I don't think he really has the vision because, like, man, a lot of times you need, size to like really maximize your vision. So the Carolina Panthers are an unserious franchise, as Mr. Cooper has eloquently stated. But I just don't. That pick's not going to work out regardless. Like, unfortunately, structure or no structure, but they can at least maximize whatever they can get from Bryce Young by sitting him down for the moment and just kind of letting him recalibrate and just kind of see, and then get him back out there in 3 to 4 weeks.
Let me ask you this, T. Let's say they go 2-15, which is very possible. Like, it's very, very possible.
Like, likely.
Very likely. Like, it's almost certain at this point, right? Yeah. Even with Andy Dalton starting, it's almost certain they don't win no more than 2 games. You have the number 1 pick. Do you go Carson Beck or Shador?
I don't believe in either one of those gentlemen. So I would say no. I would say no. But if I can like kind of rearrange your question, if there is a viable number 1 pick, somebody that I feel like I believe, a Justin Fields, Caleb Williams situation, I'm taking that quarterback.
Or do you let's say Bryce comes back and starts late October, early November, and he's serviceable. Mm-hmm. Do you use that top 3, top 4 pick to fortify other parts of that team and then try again in 2025?
If Bryce Young looks like a serviceable quarterback this year, I'm doing whatever I can to like fortify that offensive line and to put some weapons, on the outside for him. I'm getting him the best tight end I can find, and tight end is a rookie or a young quarterback's best friend. And yeah, I'm seeing it. Can we build a solid team next year to where we're not a laughingstock? Yeah, and if we suck like that, then maybe it's back in the tank mode, in a couple of years. But yeah, I need Bryce Young to come back and show that he looks like an NFL quarterback first, and then we can build around that.
For sure.
You both mentioned the ownership, and I think that's who made the call. Because Frank, you're talking about how, Sunday, Dan or Dave Canales was saying, that's still our quarterback. Then Monday he gets benched. I think the owner, guys spent a lot of money on the team. The guy's obviously got an ego. This team is staring 0-17 in the face. I know it's early, but let's be real. The way they played, it's going to be hard for another team to play that poorly to lose to this team. I mean, you're going to have the worst game of your life. And then even then, who knows? It's a coin toss. So I think he's the one who made the call. I don't know. I just don't love it. Like I feel like you got to let the guy play or it's like y'all said. It's either to me it's like either let him play and live with the results and find out for sure if he's your guy this year, if there's anything you can build off what he can do, or let him sit, let him learn. But I mean, he kind of blew that last year, so they're not in a great position. But you know who is in a great position is the Houston Texans because they're the big winners in all this because the Texans were very interested in taking Bryce Young. In fact, they were going to take him if he were there where they drafted number 2. The fact that he was off the board, they were kind of forced to, make the move and get Stroud. And of course, Stroud is just the much better player already. I mean, is he the best pure passer in the league already? He might be. I mean, Mahomes is the best quarterback, but like just throwing the football, CJ Stroud's pretty good at that.
I don't understand what scouts saw in that comparison of Bryson and CJ. Like, to me, it wasn't close. I said all year that year, CJ was a better prospect. He's a better thrower. He's taller. He's better with anticipation. I didn't think it was close. And for scouts, especially for the Texans and Panthers, to think that Bryce was a better prospect, I don't know what they saw. I mean, Bryce played with a lot of talent at Alabama. I mean, I get it. He played with 3 Outland Trophy winners on the O-line. Like he had talent all across the board. So he didn't have to do. I mean, he played great with that talent. But like when I watched CJ went against one of the best defenses in college football over the last 40 years in that Georgia defense and lit them up. If he had another 45 seconds, he probably would have scored a touchdown to take him to the CFP championship game against TCU. Like he balled out in that game. So I was very, very surprised that a lot of those scouts had Bryce as number 1 prospect.
Yeah, I thought CJ was better in college. Like I didn't really get on the Bryce Young train until like late. Like even with the Heisman, I was like, okay, that's Bama. I thought he performed well in some big games. I thought it was clear as hell that CJ Stroud was a better quarterback than him. I just saw CJ make too many big throws from too many big spots, from different spots on the field. Pressure, no pressure. Like he was better than him. I didn't think it was close either, but I get it. Bama, number 1 pick, Heisman. I think you start looking at different comps for him. Kyler Murray, these smaller quarterbacks with like the shifty speed. But he didn't have the strength, and there was like basic things that we've been told for 30 to 40 fucking years that matter. When selecting a quarterback, that kind of got thrown out of the window for Bryce Young, and he should have been a 2nd-round quarterback. We had many conversations where that was kind of the consensus. Like at the very least, he should not be the number 1 quarterback, right? But he looks like a 2nd-round quarterback.
Yeah. He went to Alabama and that made him a winner. And that's why they thought it was like time to pull the trigger on that move. But in more quarterback news, let's talk about, so the week began with the Bills beating the Dolphins 31-10 on Thursday Night Football. Tua Tagovailoa, the Dolphins QB, he had a real bad game. 3 picks, 1 in return for a touchdown. Worst of all, though, he suffered another concussion. Today, the Dolphins put him on the IR. He'll miss the next 4 games at least. A lot of talk, people wanting him to retire. I don't really think that's our call to make. I think that's his call. But Frank, what do you think about the Tua situation?
I need Tua to learn how to slide. Like he has to learn how to slide, man. Like that was in the 2nd quarter, right? That injury, like it's in the 2nd quarter. I mean, I get it, you're down, but you gotta know how to get down, man. Like it was a clean tackle. He didn't like. I mean, it was just a bad form. It was just a bad decision on Tua's part. And I get the concussion concerns, and for people to say he needs to retire. I bet you if they were in Tua's situation, who he just signed a $55 million per year contract, they're not going to retire. Like this man grew up playing football. It's his dream to be in this position. It's easy for people on the outside to be like, oh man, give it up, man. You made your millions of dollars, just walk away. Like, no, like this is his man's livelihood. This is what he loves to do. He just got to take better care and use better judgment when on the football field. You know, when it comes to, you know, protecting himself and protecting his body. I think, and also I think the Dolphins are at a microscope. A couple years ago, this man had a concussion. Well, it looked like he had a concussion, and he wasn't checked on. They put him right back out there in a game, and then the following week, he on a Thursday night game again, he got hurt, and it was a scary. It looked like he was having a seizure for a second. So I mean, the Dolphins are responsible too, as far as the totality of like the Tua situation of how they're handling it in the past. But I think it's the right decision. I mean, I know that he saw a neurologist on Monday, put him on IR, and like really letting him heal. At this point, man, this is about your life. You know, this is not about football anymore. This is about your quality of life moving forward. And if it's 4 weeks, if it's 6 weeks, if it's the season, they need to focus on getting his faculties back together and make sure he's right, like really right, before putting him back out there. But for Tua, man, you gotta have better. You are the franchise now. They paid you to be the guy. You gotta carry yourself in that manner and think about the next play and not trying to, you know, score 2 touchdowns in one play because you're down, you know, 21 points or how much they were down in that situation at that point.
So I think it was so many different factors that led to that. We talked about, you know, the contract. There was so much hype leading into that, you know, the game Thursday against Buffalo. Buffalo had been, you know, killing them over the course of a year since Tua's been there. Yeah. Every opportunity Miami had to, you know, reassert that they can compete with Buffalo. Buffalo just smacked the shit out of them.
They had a 4-game lead last year, and they blew it in that last game. Yeah,
completely blew it. And Tua they didn't just lose and get smacked. Tua was horrible. He's been horrible in almost every big game that he's played in. I think all of these things kind of like come together to lead to his horrible decision to not slide. Another thing, Tua gained a bunch of weight last year because he wanted to, like, you know, be more durable. Lost a lot of that weight coming in this year because he wanted to be more mobile. So it's like not really having a full understanding and plan of like who you are as a player and you know, how you want to attack defenses on a season-to-season basis. So I think all these things came together. And then with the last straw of it was he was horrible again in the first quarter. You know, 2 picks. Was it 3? Did he throw a third before that? Like, so he I know at least 2 picks, and then he was just,
yeah, it's 3, 1 pick, 6, yeah,
3 picks. You know, you're starting to feel that pressure. Like, I have to make something happen. You know, all these, like, when athletes say that they don't hear like the noise and the hype that's around them, like the narratives, they lie. They lie because they hear everything. Yeah, like his play, the decisions he was making. Forcing, like, even the picks, like, yeah, one of them was a fluke, kind of bounced up, but like everything else, like he was just making poor decisions.
Yeah,
forcing the ball when he didn't need to. And Tua is not a force the ball guy. Tua is a West Coast offense, boom, boom, get it out, let the receivers do the majority of the work. He's not a scrambler, which leads into like that final straw is like him just not being a good slider. Because once he got to the second line of the defense, DeMar Hamlin, like there's like 2 trains on a train track.
Yeah.
And he just did not have like the wherewithal, the quick wherewithal to get past that linebacker. He got the first down, and you could tell he made the decision, I'm going to do whatever it takes to get like these extra 3 yards. But like that's not you, Tua. That is not you. You're not really a play. He's not really a playmaker. You know, he's a play, like the play is there. I'm you know, getting into who's going to make the play for us, but that's not what he does. So it's unfortunate. You know, he has the history, and not just even the history of concussions. Like you said, like violent concussions. Like it looks like you can tell something's wrong with you. The last one he had before this one, it's like, man, I couldn't see him getting back on the football field. and we're right back in this situation. So, yeah, IR is the right choice. Obviously, he needs to like really talk to every specialist he can and see like, okay, what is the best plan going forward? Not just this year, but for my career. Like, how high is the risk of another concussion? And if I do get another concussion, how bad could that damage potentially get?
Yeah.
And then from there, he needs to make decisions. Like, I don't see him retiring because retire and do what? Like, I think that's the thing that we forget about with athletes is this is their identity. They spent so much of their life committed to this one thing, and that's a hard thing to walk away from. Hell, even athletes who spent 15 plus years in a respective league, like they still don't. It's still not enough, right? I don't know what is LeBron going to look like once he retires? Like even with all these different ventures and stuff like that, LeBron James has been LeBron James for as long as we can remember, right? So these things are hard to walk away from, and I do empathize with Tua. I wish him well on his health journey. But ultimately, if there's any potential threat of like life-threatening things or something that's going to decrease his quality of life, once he's past 40, to a significant degree, I would highly encourage him to walk away from it. But I also understand why he probably won't.
Yeah, no, that's well said. It's real tough. I mean, Tua, like, how old is he? Like 27 or something? 28 maybe?
26.
Yeah. I mean, like, it's easy for someone to go, yeah, he should retire. But like, yeah, you're right. Like this obviously what's happened to him has been terrible. And, who knows what would happen if there's another time. But people have to live their life. And I mean, retiring at 26, like, I can't imagine, like, if you're in that, if you're able to play professional football for any professional sport or whatever, it's a lifelong dream. You've been doing this your whole life. It's hard to give that up. And then like Tristan said, what are you doing then? So hopefully Tua gets better. Hopefully he gets back on the field whenever he's, able to, as safely as possible. Hopefully they get back to what they did last year, because he didn't really take many hits last year. He did a good job avoiding hits, or maybe he was better protected or whatever. Hopefully he can get back to that. But Tua wasn't the only player that suffered an injury in week 2 or went on the IR for that matter. We had a couple guys, Isaiah Pacheco suffered an injury. We had Christian McCaffrey, who, he missed week 1. We found out he's now going to be out till maybe week 6 or 7. Yeah, a lot of injuries. I mean, it's the NFL, it's pro football. This happens, but Frank also Debo Samuels is going to be out for a little while because it's the season. He gets hurt a lot. So, Frank, which injury do you think is going to impact the team the most? Besides Tua, obviously, he's a quarterback, but which injury, maybe like which underrated injury is really going to impact the team?
I think the tandem of like Puka and Cooper Cup for the Rams, that's probably the biggest loss because
my fucking
I mean, that's their offense. That's their identity of those two guys. They're yak guys. They McVay schemes allow those guys open, come off of motion. Their short passing game is like center of their run game with those two guys, getting yak. I don't know what there are. Like McVay is going to have his work cut out for him at this point. Like, what do they go next? Are they going to become a more Kyron Williams ball control offense and play action off of that? Or are they going to try to, test that depth and like try to feature other guys like Jordan Winton, the rookie out of Texas, or Demarcus Robinson, ex-Chief. I don't know what they do. I mean, and they're 0-2 now, so it's kind of like they got to have some urgency and make this up as they go along and reshape the whole identity moving forward. So that's probably like the most damaging injury. Pacheco is damaging from the standpoint of like the Chiefs didn't really prep themselves with their depth going through the season, knowing that a guy like Pacheco, who's missed parts of seasons last year and the year before that with injuries, not having McKinnon there, not having that true depth, having a rookie running back behind him as well, and Carson Steele. But again, with Andy Reid, I mean, you still have Pat, you still have Rashee Rice, Kelsey. They have weapons that they can manufacture, offense. And like Tristan said, in the last 2 games, they moved the ball efficiently, with their new toys. The least concern I'm worried about is the Niners. They seem to miss guys every year. Like the guys get hurt and miss stretches at a time the last couple of years, and they still make the NFC Championship game or the Super Bowl. So McCaffrey is the best back in football. He's literally a walking Swiss Army knife. But with that zone scheme that they run with Shanahan, that one cut and go offense, Jordan Mason is gonna be just fine filling in. It may test Purdy a little bit as far as like him having to extend the plays and like really like get other guys involved, like Jawan Jennings and like testing the receiver depth chart. But they got so much talent, man, on both sides of the ball. They'll be fine. I don't see them missing too much of a step.
This is awkward because my choice is McCaffrey. Yeah, man, like the Rams injuries, that's like my hipster choice. But I think that yes, you're correct. Like I think the 49ers will be able to replace, I would say, about 80% of McCaffrey's production in the run game with Jordan Mason. And whoever the hell they have back there on their sideline. It's McCaffrey as a receiving option that I think is going to be the biggest blow to them, especially with Debo being out, especially with Ayuk looking like he's stuck in the mud, still in training camp mode. Jawan Jennings is playing well, but who else are you afraid of on that offense? If Debo's out and McCaffrey's out, who is taking the top off the defense? Who is the person that you look at and say, we have to account for them on the skill position on the offensive side? Like, I can't think of anybody. The scheme is always going to get you, solid production. Like the Niners could score 17 points without McCaffrey, without Debo Samuel. Hell, without Ayuk, they could probably score 17 a game. But what happens when you need 24? What happens when you need 30? You can't go 2-3 possessions without scoring, especially in a row. Like that could essentially be the game. That's what happened with Minnesota. So yeah, I'm worried about them in the passing game. And yeah, we're going to see, how well Brock Purdy, has elevated his game, how well he's able to be effective while kind of upping his risk profile. Because quarterbacking is really all about risk profile, right? Like it's about, okay, I can, make this tight throw on 3rd and 7 that I probably wouldn't make on, 2nd and 6 or whatever. Like, so Brock Purdy decision-making wise, I think he's always been good. And, it's making the right decisions, but it's almost like he's always had the answers to the test.
Yeah.
And like now we're kind of taking it away a little bit. Now you're going to have to make more reads on the fly. Offensive line wise, like Trent Williams is there and he's looking like Trent Williams again. So the protection is going to be there. But what happens when those windows aren't as wide the fuck open as they normally are for him, So he's going to rely a lot on Kittle. He's going to rely on, again, scheming up Jawan Jennings and Ayuk to, for those big plays. But I just don't think that they're going to be as frequent, without the full Avengers there. So, yeah, I'm gonna say McCaffrey. Like I said, Jordan Mason, he can get you 80 to 90% of the run production. But it's the receiving part that I'm worried about.
Let's play 5 weeks of wins and losses, T, over the next 5 games. They're at LA versus the Rams this Sunday. Is that a win or loss?
They beat LA.
Okay. They're at home versus the Patriots. Win or loss?
Better be a win.
It should be a win. It should be a win, but I think the Patriots will hold them under 23 points.
23 points, okay.
So Cardinals, like, okay, who wins the turnover battle?
Gotcha. Cardinals, Niners, they're at home versus the Cardinals.
They're going to lose that game.
Gonna lose that game? Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
They're going to lose that game.
Here's a trick game. Thursday night football, short week. Going to Seattle playing the Seahawks. Win or loss?
They're going to lose that game.
Okay, so at that point,
Seattle's defense is for real.
Okay, so at that point they'll be 3-3 at that point.
Yeah,
and then at home versus the Cowboys.
Shit. That's a toss up.
Toss up.
I'm going to say San Francisco wins that game because they're just Cowboy boogeyman.
Okay.
Yeah, and San Francisco's at home.
Yeah, they're at home.
Oh yeah, San Francisco winning that.
So by that estimation, it'll be 4-3. Go and that'll be November 10th. So they have a bye week. That first week of November 10th, they go to Tampa Bay Buccaneers. McCaffrey should be back, but if they're 4-3 going to that game, McCaffrey's back. I think that's a win for them.
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree. Yeah. What habits has Brock Purdy picked up over the course of those 7 games? That I think that's interesting to me. Like, what does he carry with him through the rest of that year? Like, I'm very interested to see that.
That's fair. I mean, that's fair. I mean, I'm not even going to front and say McCaffrey's is not an A1 player. He is an A1 elite player, and like now not having Debo, yeah, you're taking 2 major chess pieces off the board for them. But if you can go 4-3, if you can play above 500 football for the next 4 to 5 weeks, with McCaffrey coming back and like slowly revving them up for November, I think they'll be fine. Now I will say this: I don't think they win the division. There might be a wild card now. I mean, with this McCaffrey, because when we picked the Niners back in 2 weeks ago, we assumed that McCaffrey was going to play week 1 and moving forward and be healthy. So this changes things now. So, if they're a wild card, now you got to go to Philly or to, I don't know, to Detroit, that divisional round, to Tampa maybe, to New Orleans, the Superdome. That could be a different beast for what they're used to. So yeah,
I agree.
It will be interesting to see. Do y'all have anything else from week 2 you want to talk about before we get out of here?
Tristan? I mean, real quick, Nick Sirianni, your days numbered they are. Toyota, numbered are your days. I mean, we talked about like what does he do?
Yeah.
He doesn't really call plays. He obviously is not really that involved in personnel. It's like, what the fuck do you do? Like, what do you do here, Nick Sirianni? But that collapse was, I saw people, essentially say, hey, if Saquon makes that catch, it's the right decision. But I'm big on process over results, and like the process of that decision was wrong. So like essentially you're asking, Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley to like bail you out from your poor decision. And he dropped it obviously, but like which one is more likely? Him fumbling from running the ball to like keep the clock going, or dropping that pass? The thing that's more likely is the drop. There's been 60 drops over the course of the year so far. Only 29 lost fumbles. You got a 50% more, chance of like keeping the ball, keeping the clock running, forcing, Kirk Cousins to go essentially 90 yards down the field. And they just didn't do it. I would have run it on 3rd and 4th down. So yeah, that was my biggest takeaway, man. The Eagles, I talked about that secondary. That secondary got burned again. Jalen Hurts made a lot of great plays, and he also looked up and down in a lot of spots. I would be worried about the Eagles if I was a fan of them, or if I picked them to win a division, which I'm pretty sure I did. Unfortunately,
I did too. Yeah.
So that's my takeaway.
So about that game, I didn't have a problem with the call. What I did have was a problem with the call with that team. In that quarter, you spent 7 minutes, seven game minutes in the 4th quarter running the ball, blowing the Atlanta Falcons off the line. It was 3rd and 3. You could have ran it twice. Like they were bending. They were conceding yards to your rushing offense. Like, let's say you get a yard and a half. It's 4th and short. you've made the tush push an American like cultural thing at this point, and at an 85% clip. Now, if you get it, if it's 4th and short and you don't get it on your tush push, you know what? I can live with that because that's your identity. That's what you do. You know, that's your calling card. People don't know this. Saquon has had the most drops from the run-up position the last 2 seasons. You know, and if Sirianni had done his research, and I mean, of course, if you call that play for Saquon, he's not gonna be like, "Hey, coach, I dropped 13 balls the last 2 years. Don't give it to me." He's going to play, but at the same time, you have to know your identity. You have to know your team. And again, you ran the ball for damn near 7 minutes and pretty much ate the clock the whole time. If you had ran the ball twice and didn't get it, 40 seconds, 55 seconds come off the clock. And now they have to go, 80 something yards instead of a minute 39. Now you're talking about possibly 45 seconds. So that plays a big deal. But I'm also this too. I'm not going to put that defense off the hook. That Eagles defense was horrid. The defensive play calling was horrid. Why are you running quarters? You know they're going to go sideline to sideline. You know they're going to try to get out quick outs and speed cuts and corner outs on sideline to stop the clock. You know this. This is like a known thing with NFL teams with no timeouts or 1 timeout left. Why are you giving up the sideline to complete a 35-yard corner route to Darnell Mooney and not bring pressure? You brought pressure for most of that night, and then you don't bring pressure at all. I don't care if you're Bryce. I don't care if you're Nate Peterman. 3-man, 4-man pressure and giving an NFL quarterback time. He's going to find somebody open. So that defense, man, it's just they look as bad as they did last year, and I don't know if they're going to improve. They struggle getting pressure unless they're blitzing. And I mean, I love Brandon Graham. But he's 36 and he played 33 snaps. You know, Nolan, your young defensive end from Georgia played 31 snaps. Your DT from Georgia, he has been a very average player. He was a top 10 pick. So they gotta find something on that defense side of the ball, because if they don't, Sirianni might be getting his walking papers by November.
The Eagles were bottom 5 in defense last year through the first 2 games. Bottom 5 in defense.
I think Sirianni is 2-9 his last 11 games now.
Yeah. Historic free fall last year. Historic.
Yeah. They were in the Super Bowl 2 years ago, and now they're going the other way. My last thing in the NFL is also in the NFC East, which is probably my least favorite division, but the Commanders beat the Giants 21-18, mostly because the Giants didn't have a backup kicker. Graham Gano got hurt in the game, and so the Giants couldn't even kick extra points. They couldn't kick field goals. This goes back to something I've always had an issue with. How is your punter not your backup kicker? Like, how does your punter not have the ability to make extra points? Or how do you not have somebody on your team that can kick a 30-yard field goal? I mean, like, this is professional sports. Like, how do they not have that? That just blows my mind. That just tells you all you need to know about the Giants. Like, there's no one on their team that can kick a short field goal.
I mean, as a special teams coach, man, you at least think as a
Exactly.
coach of teams, you'll have your punter who they don't do shit but punt in training camp. That's all they do. You'll think, hey man, let's spend 10 minutes like on emergency drill because I could go down. Let's kick some field goals here. Just the emergency drill. Because some punters kick off. Some punters kick off. Like if some kick off on some teams, why can't you have them like practice field goals as an emergency? Breaking break the glass jar type of deal.
Yeah. Tristan, any thoughts on punting or kicking or what's going on with the Giants?
I can't relate. My starting safety can boom field goal kicks. So again, unserious franchises, like to not have that contingency plan when you're already. If you're the Giants, you have to think about this. Like your margin for error is already, thin. Like you should prepare for everything. Like a kicker goes down, kicker might be your best scoring option.
Yeah.
Like he might be, like the fucking Falcons last year. What's my man named Koo?
Young Wei Koo, yeah.
Yeah, like
Young Ho Koo, baby.
It might be your leading offensive player. Like you can't leave him out leave your special teams out the draw like that. But yeah, I can't really relate, man. I got Justin Reed.
Arguably more popular than your actual kicker in a lot of circles, but we'll save that for another day. From Sunday, let's talk about some Saturday football. We haven't talked about this is our third episode. We haven't talked anything about college yet. Let's touch on college football just real quickly here. The big news so far this season happened this weekend. The University of Texas is the new number one. Texas is number one for the first time in 16 years, and they have a new quarterback currently because of the injury to Quinn Ewers. Frank, what do you think about the Longhorns, and what are your early thoughts on the season overall?
Man, I was saying T yesterday, man. I was like, this is a championship team. I think, but I think Quinn has to be the guy, though. I think Quinn, he has the snaps on. He's played in big games. He was just in a college football playoff last year. If Quinn is healthy, I think they'll win the championship. I don't think there's a defense in the country in the Power Five that can slow down our offense. When they're loaded, when they're moving. Javonte Cook, Isaiah, the receiver from Alabama, the transfer from there, Gunnar Helm, the tight end, like they are loaded, and Sarkisian is in his bag this season. Like he's running an NFL pro style offense to where Quinn his third eye is open. Like they're running pro style sets, and like they got teams off balance. Yeah. And Sark is just showing, like, something tells me he's just showing the tip of the iceberg. I think as he gets deep into the season against the Georgias and the Oklahomas and later on Novembers, you're gonna see more wrinkles of that offense. And that defense is fast, man. They're fast, sideline, young secondary. They have Makuba, the transfer DB from Clemson, who was on the cornerback of the year short list this season. They're loaded. I think if they're healthy, I think Quinn's health is going to be key moving forward. I mean, they play the Sisters of the Poor next week, so they should be fine with Arch. But they're loaded. I think they're going to win the championship, barring injury.
Yeah, well, I totally agree that Quinn Ewers is the best quarterback if you want to win a championship this year. I think Arch has the high, gives your offense the higher ceiling. Like it's just more. I liken it to like Tim Tebow and Cam Newton, at Florida. Like, yeah, we have a championship winning quarterback here. We also have a guy who could be Superman, like, yeah. So I get it. No, like I think when you see a team is the number one team in the nation, like you want to be able to like point to things to let you know, okay, I see it. I can see this on the field. And they just have answers for everything. Like Michigan tried blitzing them. They had answers for that. They couldn't stop the run. Like the play calling was on point. Like Quinn was making every throw, right decisions. Like I said, the defense was flying around. Like that's a number one team with number one team talent. And that's what we haven't seen from Texas in God knows how long. Like just having like the high-end talent to go against other high-end talent. We saw a little bit last year against Alabama, other games, but like this year, like they look like they're on a mission, and they look walking in, they look better than most teams. So well deserved. Sark has been, a mastermind at calling games, calling plays this year. I can't wait to see them against Georgia. Just kind of see how they stack up.
Yeah.
What's crazy about it, they lost Xavier Worthy and A.D. Mitchell on this receiving core. They look just as explosive as they did last year. They lost a first-round receiver and a second-round receiver in the NFL draft, and they look just as explosive.
Yeah, and their running back last year was the first running back draft taken in the draft, went to Carolina. And their top two running backs this season were injured before the season. So they've it shows you Texas definitely has the depth that they had back in, the early 2000s with Vince Young, and that rolled into the Colt McCoy kind of team. And Texas is back. And speaking of Arch Manning, obviously he has the athleticism that obviously the other Mannings didn't have, or maybe Archie Manning had. I didn't see him play, but the one thing about Arch, his final throw in that game, he had 5 touchdowns, 4 touchdown passes, 1 run. The final touchdown pass was an NFL legit throw. Like, it was a strike to the corner to the receiver in the end zone, and it looked better than some of the guys we watched on Sunday. I'll just put it that way.
The 67-yard touchdown run that he had, he was topped at 20.1 miles an hour. Tyreek Hill, week 1 against the Jaguars on his 80-yard touchdown, was topped at 20.3 miles an hour. He was running damn near as fast as Tyreek was last week on that touchdown run. Yeah. So white boy from the wall, dog. Motherfucker's not. He's not. He's the milkman came by that weekend. That is not Cooper Manning's son. It can't be. That motherfucker is too damn athletic.
Yeah. So with Texas moving up, that meant a team had to fall, and that was Georgia, who was preseason number 1. Frank, what did you think about the Georgia almost losing to Kentucky? They didn't lose though. So do you think they should have lost their spot? I mean, they didn't even lose the game.
I don't think so. I mean, for those who know, I'm a diehard UT fan. I just don't believe if you win a game, whether it's sloppy or not, if you're undefeated, I don't think you should lose your spot. That's just me, but that's the style point facet that comes along with college football. They didn't look good, but again, these are 18-year-old kids, 19-year-old kids playing on the road in Kentucky. Like, you're dealing with kids. Like, the emotional roller coaster of the week-to-week season of being a teenager is different, man. It's not something. It's when you're playing away from home and you're playing in an SEC away stadium with 90,000 people screaming at you, and you're playing a game and like it's the third quarter and the game is still in doubt. You start having doubts like, oh damn, we're Georgia, but shit, why are we winning by 21 right now? Like, you start creeping that into your doubt as a teenager. Hell, grown pros have that at the pro level. So imagine what a kid's going through at that point. And then plus, like, again, like, this is college football. Week to week is a battle. You're gonna get, this is Georgia. You're gonna get everybody's best shot. And this is the SEC opponent, Kentucky, who've had, they've had good seasons in the past. That was their CFP playoff, at home, prime time on ESPN. So I'm not worried about Georgia. I will say this. Offensively, I think they're not as explosive as in past years. They don't have a George Pickens on that team. They don't have a Calvin Ridley. They don't have a guy that can take top of the defense. They don't have a Nick Chubb. The explosion at the skill position is not really there. Defensively, they're still really good. Don't get me wrong; they're still really good defensively. But I wonder if they play and they got some dogs this year on the calendar. They play Tennessee. They play Ole Miss. Dart, that quarterback, they're explosive in Ole Miss. They play Texas. So they got some tests coming up. They play Bama in a couple weeks as well. Jalen Miro, he punk. So we're going to see really quickly how explosive Georgia offense is and if they can keep up with the explosive offenses of the SEC.
Well said. Tristan, any thoughts on college football? What's going on with Georgia or anything else?
Yeah, I second that. Like, another thing to remember, like, they're going up against a conference rival. Like these games are going to be closer than you want them to be. Like, you're not just blowing out Kentucky. This isn't, 10 years ago with them. I need to see more from Carson Beck. Again, I've seen him look really good at times. I also seen him look like mediocre. So we got a lot of mediocre last week. So I need to see more data points on Georgia. Georgia's always defensively, they're always going to have speedy guys. They're always going to have big physical guys who are also fast at the same time. But like offensively, like you said, like there's no Calvin Ridley, no George Pickens, none of these guys that you look and they stand out above other elite athletes. I haven't seen that yet, so I think Kirby Smart is going to have to like earn all his money a lot more this year. You're not just relying on just, hey, we have this gauntlet of, first and second round picks. Like I'm not seeing it this year so far.
Even McCall Hardman, McCall Hardman was an explosive player at Georgia a few years ago when he lost to Bama. They don't even have a McCall Hardman type of guy on at the receiver core. So,
yeah, I can't, again, very much looking forward. This will be the first time probably ever that I look at Texas versus like a Georgia or Bama and say they should win that game. Last year with Bama, I was like, hey, Texas can win this game. Like I was fairly confident Texas could win. This year, I'm like, no, they should win.
Yeah.
So big shift.
Yeah, it'll be fun to watch because Texas in back-to-back weeks will have Oklahoma and then Georgia. So they've got some big tests coming up in a few weeks, but we will definitely talk about those when we get there. Frank, any final thoughts as we wrap up here?
Thursday night football is Jets and Patriots. I will not be watching. Sorry, guys. I won't be able to give you much analyzation on that game. I'll probably be playing poker or playing video games at that point. I don't know. They might get some iPad treatment. Who knows?
Yeah.
It'll get the iPad. Only when the Jets are on offense. I still need to know who the hell Aaron Rodgers is throwing the ball to outside of Garrett Wilson. For me, like I continue to want to see what these rookies, and by these rookies, I mean like Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels. I never want to see Bo Nix throw the football ever again. I look at Anthony Richardson still as a rookie. So I'm very interested in just like kind of seeing the development because quarterbacks are not running roughshod over defenses anymore. Like that's just not happening this year. So like the curve for rookies is going to be steeper because this is not. I don't think this is a super quarterback friendly league right now. So that's what I'm looking for in this next week. I definitely want to see Caleb Williams take a step up. I want to see them kind of take a little bit of the leash off of Jaden Daniels a lot more this week. So that's my big thing.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to a couple matchups. I'm looking forward to that Niners-Rams game. That's a must-win for the Rams this weekend. And also the Texans are going to Minnesota. You got battle of two unbeatens. That'll be interesting. Minnesota's defense has always been pretty good, and especially playing at home. We'll see if Sam Darnold's for real against that Texans pass rush. That'll be an interesting game to check out. So, but then we'll be talking about that next week. So that does it for our show this week. Now that you know what we think about week 2 of the NFL season, we want to know what you think about it. And the best way to do that is to join us in the live chat, just like King B. Johnson did. And of course, Tracy Vigilance and Geeking Out with Melly Mel. They've had their own conversation going all night long in the chat. We appreciate it. M Moves also joined. Thank to M for joining us. We appreciate your input and everything. And honestly, that's the best way to join our show. But if you're not watching this live, that's okay. You can always subscribe to the show, subscribe to the channel, like the show, like the episode. Leave your comments below. We always appreciate that. And if video isn't your thing, we have audio podcasts also, so you can check us out on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And of course, we're on social media. We're on Twitter. We're on Facebook. We're on LinkedIn. No, we're not on LinkedIn. Are we on LinkedIn? No, we're not. We're not on LinkedIn. Of course not. What am I thinking? We should be on. Maybe I should be on LinkedIn looking for a job. No, we're on Twitter. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. We're on Threads. So find us there. Follow us. Find us and follow us and all that good stuff. Man, I am really fumbling the end of this podcast for some reason. I don't know why. But you know what? It's not the only podcast we have this week. We're coming back in a couple of days because Agatha All Along is back. Or not Agatha. It's not back. It's coming for the first time. It's making its debut. Wow, this is real rough. I've crashed the plane like 5 times. Like I'm just like
Bryce Young out there, bro.
Yeah. This is my tribute to Bryce. I feel you, bud. It's tougher than it looks. Don't try this at home. Stay in school. I need like an Andy Dalton to help me. No, actually I don't. But no, we have another podcast. What I meant to say was Agatha is returning. We saw her in WandaVision. She's getting her own series and it debuts on Wednesday night with 2 episodes. We'll be talking about it on Thursday night. So please join us as we return to our superhero digs, talking about the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Marvel Television. So be sure to join us on Thursday. And I think I've done a good job messing this one up for now. So for Frank and for Tristan, I'm Justin saying thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We will see you next time. Have a good night. Bye-bye.